I think it's finally time to make a cohesive video about where my hatred comes from.
Let me guess, you're a Spyro fan?
Hence, you ask? Why, the most egregious of them all.
Dude, just tell us. Imagine having an intro.
That's a Skylanders game every single year. Now that in and of itself is a problem.
I really think that you would not be that mad if Crash or Spyro got games every single year.
A lot of the time, annual releases like Call of Duty, for example, are half and made to just capitalize on the success of its predecessor.
I actually agree with this a lot because Toys for Bob was recently just moved over to work for Call of Duty, showing that Activision really just wants to make a Call of Duty game every single year no matter what, so I'm going to have to remove one sin. But I'm going to have to put that sin right back, because even though you mentioned this about Call of Duty, you have yet to make one video saying why Call of Duty sucks, so why are you just calling Skylanders out when other game series also make annual releases every year?
They need new toys to keep pumping out so kids, collectors, and parents keep buying them and buying them.
This is Business 101. The more demand you have, the more supply you have to put out. Why are you saying this like it's a crazy concept when it's been a practice since the beginning of humanity?
For someone who's invested in Skylanders as a game series,
if Skylanders sucks so bad, then why have you invested into the series itself?
I know if I kept up with the series only to see its creators pumping out sequel after sequel every year, it'd get pretty tiring. Even though I'm not a fan of the series, this still bugs me.
If you're not a fan of the series, then play the games before you actually start to hate it. But since you're most likely a Spyro fan, I doubt you will do this.
Skylanders is like a tumor in the gaming industry. It paves the way for other developers to follow in Skylanders' footsteps and lose any emotional attachment to their product by creating a hollow shell for the sake of making money, and money alone.
Skylanders is not as near as buggy and soulless as any of the games he mentions throughout this entire video. Also, you say it's a tumor in the gaming industry when other games like Call of Duty are obviously way worse when it comes to this.
Before you use the argument that I'm a large proprietor of Amiibo and thus my argument for disliking Skylanders toys is invalid, you should know that I stopped collecting them some time ago.
You still collected them, so what's the point?
I only really invested in Amiibo because Nintendo successfully tugged at my nostalgia for their classic characters.
Dude, you keep contradicting yourself in the video. You just said that you're willing to buy Toys to Life Amiibo characters, even though you just said you hated the idea of it. It's a complete juxtaposition of what you just said. Add 2 cents for this.
There were times I purchased Amiibo for their in-game effects, but those cases were few and far between.
You can also buy Skylanders for their in-game effect. You're being a hypocrite by bashing Skylanders yet openly saying you bought Amiibos for the in-game effects.
Skylanders toys are about as pointless as Amiibo, but even more worthless.
He never says one good point of why Skylanders is more worthless than Amiibo.
I, for one, could not care about any of these characters you see on screen now. I don't think I can even recognize a single creature.
Well, since you have never played any of the Skylanders games, it's a logical conclusion of why you can't remember any of the Skylanders characters, so what's your point? Also, real quick, let me name them all for you. Lightcore, Drobot, Crusher, Lightcore, Prison Break, Warnado, Series 2 Slam Bam, Boomer, Gnarly T-Rex, and Kickoff Countdown.
Look at any box art for Skylanders, and you'll know what I'm talking about.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
What's even the purpose of collecting these figures if they mean almost nothing?
They mean a lot actually. Whatever Skylander you use greatly impacts the game, as all Skylanders play different have different attacks and abilities.
You could argue they get their meaning from the games they're featured in, but riddle me this, contrarian, what is a unique characteristic of a Skylander called Slam Bam?
He is one of the only Skylanders with 4 arms, and also is one of the only Skylanders in the water element that has ice abilities. He is the only Yeti Skylander, and has a Series 2 figure. He also has an Eon's Elite, and his attacks are different just like every other Skylander.
Better yet, what does the Skylander Warnado look like?
What answer you get will vary, of course, with other people, but most people say he looks like an air turtle.
Please, if you're going to make the argument that all the Skylanders are distinct and special, be able to at least recognize them all.
Okay, name every Pokemon then. Better yet, name every Amiibo. Bet you can't, but I definitely can get close to naming every single Skylander, and even if I can't, if someone shows me a Skylander, I can name them. And I think most people who play Skylanders can do that too. You're basically just saying, oh, you like this, we'll name everything in that series, like the meme. And this point is pretty invalid. I'm gonna have to add 10 cents for this one.
See, the Skylanders lack charm and are just husks of lost potential.
I just proved your point wrong, so yeah.
If there were a few Skylanders with actual simplistic character development, perhaps I wouldn't be here saying that every Skylander is generic and boring.
Not every Skylander is generic and boring. I mean, look at Skylanders like Chain Reaction, Blastertron, Thumpback. The list goes on and on. They are very cool looking and not boring. I cannot name 2 Skylanders that look alike. And there are Skylanders with simplistic character development, like Boomer and Warnator, literally an air turtle and a troll.
Additionally, just to play a Skylanders game requires you to have some of these toys, which are then magically morphed into the game world. This means you have to keep these worthless pieces of trash around.
Well, I would not say they're worthless pieces of trash since they grant you more gameplay and look cool. And the thing is, you don't even have to buy any of the Skylanders after the starter pack. You can play just with the starter pack characters. You do not need to buy any of the other Skylanders.
Spoiler alert, these figures add almost nothing to the games, just the ability to play as different flat characters that ultimately don't change anything about the gameplay.
Well, I would agree with you that the Toys to Life model is kind of scummy. Saying that the figures add nothing to the game is very untrue. The reason why people have favorite Skylanders and least favorite Skylanders, like I said, is because Skylanders play differently. The gameplay experience will be different because Skylanders play differently.
Personally, it's a very greedy business practice and one that makes me hate Skylanders as a whole.
If you hate Skylanders as a whole, then why don't you hate Amiibo or Disney Infinity? I think if this is a grade A example of bias, add 5 cents.
For this video, I put myself through the torture of playing all 5 Skylanders installments for at least 3 hours to get a taste of each game.
You know what? I'm actually going to have to give you credit for this. Most people do not do this. Remove 1 cent. But I'm going to put that cent right back since this entire video bashed Skylanders without actually playing the games.
Skylanders Spyro's Adventure is a game that I abhor, based on its principle and its effect on the Spyro series.
Yep, that makes sense. He's a Spyro fan, which makes a lot of sense now looking through the entire video.
Spyro's Adventure is actually not that terrible. I would even dare to say it's okay.
Whoa, you actually enjoyed the games? That's impossible. It's not like you just bashed the games before actually playing them, ultimately to think the games are okay.
Revolutionary, and it doesn't do too much to stand out from the abundance of collectathons I've played in my life, like, I don't know, Spyro 1, 2, and 3, and so on.
I'm also adding 10 cents for comparing Skylanders to Enter the Dragonfly alone. And I'm also going to add 5 cents for comparing Skylanders to Hero's Tale and Eternal Night.
Nevertheless, I would be lying if I said I didn't get any enjoyment out of it.
I smell a hypocrite.
Then there's Skylanders Giants, which is about as stale as expired crackers and the Pokemon franchise. Giants is simply not enjoyable.
I would disagree since the gameplay is more refined and the story is better overall, but that's just my opinion, but I'm still going to send you because you said stuff about Skylanders Giants without actually playing the game.
Skylanders Swap Force is actually much better. See, I just pranked you all. I'm sure you all expected me to hate Swap Force, but this is actually the best one purely because the figures did something new.
Dang, I smell a hypocrite. Again, just to admit that you liked most of the Skylanders games is fine. Be a Spyro fan and a Skylanders fan. It's okay.
Create custom creatures.
Stop calling Skylanders creatures. That's weird.
Trap Team, on the other hand, is very dull, lacking any sort of originality.
No originality in Trap Team gimmick? That's kind of weird, because the Trap Team gimmick is one of the most inspired gimmicks ever in a game I've ever played.
It was too much for one person to handle, so I had to stop around the 2-hour mark because of how monotonous it was.
Doesn't even play to the 3-hour mark like he said he would.
Traps don't even add much of anything to the gameplay.
Traps don't even add that much to the gameplay besides being able to play as villains that you could defeat. You can open chests that you cannot open before. You gain side quests for them being able to make their designs more cool and make them more powerful. And being able to use them alongside your Skylanders so you can save health and get out of tough situations.
Superchargers is not your traditional generic platformer, but rather it's a kart racer infused with gimmicky platforming sections. This one's not too thrilling, so I kinda just powered through my 3 hours.
Yeah, Supercharger's not the best, but he never outright states why he dislikes it, so give me a reason at least.
All in all, every Skylanders game seemed to mesh together, creating one glob of mediocre, unchallenging, boring platformers that exploit the toys-to-life concept. I couldn't find much enjoyment out of the series.
Yet, you outright state that you enjoyed 2 out of the 5 games without even saying anything about the 5th game.
And it wasn't just due to the fact that I hate the toys, what they did to Spyro.
Finally, you admitted that you're just biased because Skylanders ruined Spyro. Of course. Thanks, man. It took you long enough to say it, but it all makes sense now. Add 40 cents.
A dead horse for a selfish corporation to beat money out of until it decomposes.
That just sounds like every gaming company in existence. Why do you just go out after Activision and Skylanders? I mean, I think that EA is way worse.
Has said that Skylanders has not met their expectations in terms of sales for the last 2 games. So maybe soon we'll see an end to Skylanders. Maybe then Spyro will be released from his shackles.
Even though I like Spyro, just in case you said that I hope Spyro gets another game, now I never want Spyro to get another game. Now it looks like the mean person. Still you.
Thank you so much for watching and take care. Have a wonderful day and goodbye.
At least he said have a wonderful day, but I guess that he probably doesn't mean it since I am bashing his opinions.